Just give you a couple of true stories from my time on the road. A couple of them amusing, I suppose, and one of them certainly isn't. The story that isn't funny is displayed on this board here. I make no apologies for the state of the board. It's been around a long time. It's been to a lot of shows. It's been kicked around in the back of police vans, etc. But the story still holds true to this day. And it involves, as you can see, the major brake components from the rear brake system of a Kawasaki 125 trail bike. 2004, 19-year-old lad, did a bit of maintenance on his bike, a little bit of home repairs. And he took his rear brake apart with the intention of fitting new rear pads to it, and didn't realise that to mount the pads properly you had to take the caliper off the bike. He got the old pads out and he couldn't get the new ones in because of the increased thickness. While he's wondering what to do, his friend arrives on another bike. It's a nice October afternoon and he wants to go for a ride. So he puts it back together again as best as he can, and off they go. They're out in East Devon, they're riding along. They haven't been going many miles when they start acting the goat. The guy in front on a little 125 road bike manages to fall off in a lane. The guy behind on this machine sees his friend falls off. It's quite close to the back of him and he goes for his brakes and tries to stop. His rear brake isn't working. He hit the rear brake first, he couldn't stop, and he drove over his friend's bike. His friend had rolled clear and gone into a ditch. He rode over the other motorcycle that's now lying on its side, and he managed to fall off his own bike. He's wearing jeans and training shoes. He was thrown sideways by the force of the collision, and he hit a post and rail fence, upright wooden posts and long ways metal tubes held together by big screws. The screws were sticking out of the wood because they'd rotted over the years, and he caught his right leg on one of the screws and it severed his right leg there and then. The sharp end of the screw went in his leg, it severed his leg, he rolled one way and the lower half of his right leg rolled the other. Completely detached, completely irreplaceable. He was just waiting for the nod to go in the armed services. That never happened. The reason he crashed was poor maintenance. He didn't know how to do the brake properly, he had a go at it, he made a mess of it, he rushed it, and he paid the ultimate price. So if there's something wrong with your bike and you don't know what you're doing, get help, take advice. Now, sometimes when people are given advice, they don't listen to it. Which brings me on to another story involving this drive chain. And you will see in a moment the broken end where the chain used to join. This chain was fitted to a 600cc Yamaha. The bike was serviced by a main dealer and the owner was informed that his drive chain was worn out. The owner chose not to replace the chain and rode on. The chain snapped and was drawn into the engine by the still rotating sprocket. All that chain could not fit inside the engine casing and it broke the engine. It snapped the crankcase, all the oil came out and he had to stop. Cost of that chain, reasonable condition chain, £75–80. Cost of a replacement engine from a breaker's yard, £1,500. He had the advice, he chose to ignore it. On a slightly lighter note, we have here a disc and two pads. This is the disc from an Aprilia SR50 moped, and those, which you will see in a moment, are the brake pads that went with it. You can see that those brake pads are worn right the way down to the metal. There's no friction surface left on them at all, and you can see they've overheated and eaten into the disc, and both the disc and the brake pads had to be changed. and that bike was presented for MOT test. Now lastly, and this is my favourite, is this little chap here. Can you see what that is? That is what is left of a disc brake pad. That is a pad, although it's a worn one, of virtually the same proportions. Those two pads should be roughly the same. That is from a different bike. This bike was presented to a garage in Teignbridge for a pre-MOT check. And not only had he worn away the friction surface, he'd also worn away the back plate as well. And he was surprised when the mechanic rung him up and said about the state of his brakes. It makes you wonder just how he'd been stopping his bike in that time. Those are true stories, and they're just the ones that we've managed to catch and have brought to our attention. But we know it's going on all the time, every day out there. So don't be one of those riders.